No text, no calls, just silence. But let's get one thing straight. Silence doesn't always mean healing. Sometimes silence is heartbreak in hiding. It's not closure, it's not peace. It's emotional warfare that no one talks about. They haven't reached out, and neither have you. But every day you wonder, do they still think about me? Do they feel anything at all? Or was I that easy to forget? Here's the truth. They might not be over you. They're just silent too. Silence is a mask people wear when their pride is louder than their pain, when they want to reach out but fear rejection, when they replay memories but can't find the courage to confront them. Sometimes people disappear not because they don't care, but because they care too much and don't know what to do with the chaos inside. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's where your power begins, not in decoding their silence, but in owning your own. Because let's be real, if you're watching this, you've been in that dark quiet. You've stared at your phone, hoping for a message. You've fought with yourself about whether to break the silence first. You've played both roles, the one who wants to reach out and the one who holds back out of self-respect. That's the war no one sees, the emotional limbo of mutual silence. And here's what's dangerous. Your mind starts to fill in the blanks. You create stories. They must be over me. They never cared. I meant nothing. But as Seneca warned us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. You don't know their pain. You don't know their thoughts, but you do know yours. And it's time to take control of that. Because whether they're hurting in silence or hiding behind pride, it's not your job to fix it. It's your job to protect your peace. You don't need to break the silence to prove your worth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is hold it, not to play games, not to manipulate, but to reclaim control of your emotional world. This video is for you. If you've been stuck in the what-ifs, the silence, the waiting, we're going to break down the emotional truths hiding beneath mutual silence. Why they haven't texted, why you haven't either, and how to rise above the noise that silence creates. Let's talk about the hidden side of silence and why your power starts when you stop trying to decode theirs. Number 1, silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's fear. We often assume that silence means someone has moved on, that they've found peace, that they're strong enough to walk away without looking back. But here's the truth. Not all silence is strength. Sometimes silence is fear dressed as indifference. It's easy to say nothing when you're afraid of being vulnerable. It's easy to stay quiet when the truth might hurt, or when reaching out might make you look weak. But fear and strength wear the same mask in silence, and you won't know which one they're wearing unless they show up with honesty. Sometimes they don't text because they're scared of your silence. Sometimes they're quiet because they're afraid you've truly outgrown them. They wonder if you're still thinking about them, but they fear the answer. And so they choose the safety of pretending not to care. Seneca said, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." And many people suffer quietly, waiting for a sign but never taking action. They live in the fear of rejection, the fear of being the only one who still feels something. Meanwhile, you're sitting in your own silence, wondering if it meant nothing. Both of you are hurting, both of you are silent, but neither of you is healing. Here's what you need to understand. You're not weak for wanting answers. You're not wrong for feeling pain in the quiet, but you are powerful when you choose not to let that silence control your mind. You can't control why they're quiet. You can't control their fears, their ego, or their emotional limitations. But you can control how much of your mental space you allow to be consumed by someone else's silence. You don't have to break it. You don't have to decode it. You just have to see it for what it is, not a statement of your worth, but a reflection of their internal battle. And here's a hard truth. If someone is too afraid to speak, They're not ready to be in your presence. You've earned the kind of love that speaks clearly, that chooses courage over pride, that shows up when it matters, not the kind that hides behind silence and waits for you to do all the emotional heavy lifting. So, don't sit there and suffer in the unknown. Don't romanticize the quiet. Don't assume their silence is confidence. It might be fear, and that's not your burden to carry. Number 2, the longer the silence, the louder the regret. There's something you need to understand about silence. It doesn't always fade with time. Sometimes it echoes louder and louder, not just for you, but for them. At first, silence feels like control. They think they're protecting their pride. They believe they're holding power by not reaching out. But day by day, that silence starts, whispering things they didn't expect, regret, what-ifs, memories they thought they buried. You start appearing in their mind when they least expect it. During a song, a scent, a quiet moment alone. They don't text, but they're thinking. They don't call, but they're feeling. Silence can become a prison for people who thought they were walking free. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In silence, you're becoming that. You're healing. You're growing. You're not playing emotional games or waiting by the phone. You're showing strength by not collapsing under the weight of the unknown, but them. They might not say it. They might never admit it, but they're watching. And the longer the silence stretches, the more it forces them to sit with what they lost. And the louder that realization becomes. Because here's the psychological truth. Distance gives clarity. When someone no longer has access to you, they begin to remember the warmth, the laughter, the little things. But now it's not in real time. Now it's through the lens of absence. And absence, when it's real, doesn't bring relief. It brings regret. Number 3, they might be silent, but they're still watching. Just because they're not texting doesn't mean they're not checking. Just because they're not calling doesn't mean they're not curious. Silence isn't invisibility. It's often the cover people use when they're watching you from the shadows, trying to figure out if you've moved on, if you're happy, if they still hold a place in your heart. They may not have the courage to say, "I miss you," but they might still scroll through your posts at 2 a.m. They might replay old pictures, revisit memories, or even ask mutual friends about you, quietly, carefully, so it doesn't seem obvious. This isn't healing. This is hesitation. This is fear. They're afraid that if they reach out, you won't be the same person who used to wait for them. And the truth is, you're not. Number 4, mutual silence isn't always mutual healing. Two people can be silent for very different reasons. You might be healing. They might be hiding. You might be using the silence to rebuild, to reflect, to reclaim your identity. But they might be using it to avoid accountability, to dodge the pain they caused, to delay facing themselves. Silence can be sacred, but it can also be strategic. And the danger is assuming that just because both of you are quiet, you're on the same emotional page. You're not. Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Silence is adversity in disguise. It forces you to sit with your emotions, to separate what you feel from what you deserve, to confront the difference between being missed and being respected. Ask yourself this: has this silence given you peace, or has it only paused your pain? Are you becoming stronger, or are you secretly waiting for them to break first? This is the psychological trap of mutual silence. It can feel like power, but sometimes it's just two people bleeding in private, each waiting for the other to make the first move. And here's the truth most people won't say: if you're the only one growing, then you're not in mutual healing. You're in solo transformation. You can't assume they're thinking like you, healing like you, hurting like you. They might be, or they might be partying, avoiding, numbing, denying. Not everyone uses silence as a tool. Some use it as a wall, a weapon, a way out. In Stoicism, the core teaching is this: you are responsible for your own soul, not theirs. Your growth is not measured by what they feel, it's measured by how you rise. Number 5, if they're silent, let them be. Your peace needs no permission. If they're silent, let them be. Don't chase closure, don't chase explanations. Because the longer you chase their voice, the more you abandon your own. You don't need their reply to validate your healing. You don't need their apology to begin again. You don't need permission to move forward. Epictetus said it clearly: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And their silence, that's beyond your control, so let it go. This is the turning point most people miss. You think their silence is the obstacle, but it's not. The real obstacle is your attachment to what that silence means. You keep replaying conversations that never happened. You read into pauses like they're poetry. You build entire narratives around unanswered messages, hoping to find a hidden "I still love you" inside the silence. But truth doesn't hide. If someone values you, they don't stay quiet forever. If someone respects you, they don't leave you to drown in confusion. So let them be. Let them stay silent, because every day they stay away is a loud message. They're not choosing you. And if they're not choosing you with clarity, you must choose yourself with conviction. Don't trade your emotional stability for someone else's uncertainty. You don't win by breaking first. You win by staying rooted. And if they ever return, it should never be because you chased. It should be because your strength echoed louder than their silence. Real love doesn't speak in riddles. It communicates. It shows up. It doesn't make you guess or beg or wait in emotional limbo. If they're silent, let them stay where they are, because you're not building a life that waits around for maybes. You're building a future that's fueled by certainty, your own. Number 6, healing doesn't need their words. It needs your decision. Healing doesn't come wrapped in a text message. It doesn't arrive when they finally decide to speak. It begins when you decide enough is enough. You've waited long enough for closure, for answers, for the validation they never gave. But here's the truth: you don't need their words to be whole. You just need your own courage. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's what healing really is, the act of reclaiming that power. You reclaim it every time you stop checking your phone for a text that never comes. You reclaim it when you unfollow, when you stop replaying old conversations, when you finally say, "I matter too much to keep waiting for someone who doesn't show up." They don't need to explain themselves for you to move forward. Their silence doesn't mean your story ends in confusion, because your healing isn't waiting on them. It's waiting on you. Waiting on you to decide, "I don't need them to tell me they were wrong. I don't need them to see my worth. I see it now, and that's all that matters." When someone doesn't reach out, doesn't fix what they broke, doesn't take accountability, you don't need to stand in place hoping they'll grow up emotionally. You need to grow forward. Stop letting their inaction determine your timeline. Stop letting their silence dictate your healing speed. You don't need to hear "I'm sorry" to feel free. You just need to say, "I release this," and mean it. Because healing isn't about waiting, it's about waking up. Waking up to the truth that you're no longer the person who needed them to explain themselves. You're the person who's ready to rebuild with or without closure. And that's power, not bitterness, not pride, just pure, unshakable self-respect. Number 7, you're not missing out. You're being redirected. Let's get one thing straight. Just because they're silent doesn't mean you've lost something. Sometimes silence is not a loss. It's a protection, a divine redirection. The universe didn't make a mistake removing them from your path. It gave you room to breathe, to see and to grow. But your mind, it plays tricks, it replays the highlight reel. It paints the past in golden colors and forgets the wounds underneath. That's nostalgia. That's longing. That's your emotional memory trying to rewrite the truth. Here's the truth. You're not missing out. You're dodging another round of pain because someone who really wanted to be in your life wouldn't be silent this long. They wouldn't make you wonder. They wouldn't make you question your own worth just to protect their ego. Seneca said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." You're not unlucky in love. You're in preparation. You're being sharpened. You're being strengthened. You're being redirected to something deeper, truer, and more aligned with the real you. But for that to happen, you've got to stop chasing ghosts. You've got to stop thinking silence equals suspense in a love story that already ended. You're not waiting on a plot twist. You're walking into a new storyline. And the longer you stare at the door that closed, the more you delay the door that's about to open. This is your moment to stop interpreting silence as rejection and start seeing it as redirection, to stop wondering what they're doing and start focusing on what you're becoming. They're not the prize, you are. And if silence is all they have to offer, it's because they've already said everything you need to know. So don't waste your growth trying to decode what doesn't even deserve your energy. Let them sit in their silence, let them deal with their own delay. Because you've got places to go, people to meet, peace to protect. Your life doesn't shrink because they went quiet. It expands because you chose not to. They're silent. You're silent. But this isn't a standoff. This isn't a competition to see who breaks first. This is transformation. This is the part where you stop interpreting their silence as mystery and start embracing your own silence as mastery. Because silence isn't weakness, it's restraint, it's clarity, it's power. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." So, if they handled you with silence, confusion, or emotional games, rise above it. Don't mirror their dysfunction. Model your evolution. This video wasn't just about them. It was about you. The real question is no longer, why are they quiet? It's, why do I keep giving power to someone who refuses to show up for me? You're not the same person who once waited for a reply. You're not desperate for a signal. You're devoted to your peace, your growth, your truth. And if they're out there pretending they're over you, wearing silence like a mask, let them. Because pretending is easy, healing is not. And you chose healing, so keep rising, keep glowing, keep choosing you, especially on the days when silence feels loudest. That's when breakthroughs are being born. One last time, drop this in the comments if you're ready to break free. Their silence will not silence my worth. If this message hit home, don't just watch and scroll. Subscribe. This space is built for you, those navigating heartbreak, silence, emotional confusion, and still choosing strength every single day. You deserve real power, real healing, and real self-love. So hit that like button, subscribe for more truth and clarity every week, and most of all, stay silent for your peace, not for their attention. Because the real glow-up is when you no longer need to be heard to feel powerful. You just are. I'll see you in the next one.